Welcome back everyone to Let's Play Aurora 4X in our Star Trek role-playing framework, episode number 11. I think we're going to stop with the saying of the Star Trek role-playing framework because that was really the initial way we got started with it, right? Like if I bring up my notepad here, this was the premise we originally set only so that we could establish very good goals for us. So that was the whole idea, was to have this goal in the series, because Aurora 4X, it's just it's a canvas on which to paint your story. But unless you have an idea of what story you want to paint, like, a blank canvas is not interesting by itself. You have to, if you just start putting colors randomly on it, it probably wouldn't be very good art. You kind of have to have an idea of where you're going with it. And then, like, I would say, like a Bob Ross type person would say, once you have a general idea, the details paint themselves in the process. Anyways, that's kind of a stretch for an analogy, but I feel like we're kind of doing that here. We have an idea of you could just play the game and expand and explore and all that, but I feel like it's much more satisfying to get to have like a direction to follow. Because if you were playing the game and min-maxing, you probably would stay in Stol for 50, 60, 80, even 100 years, which is not entertaining. So, with that all that said, we will be deviating very strongly from the Star Trek lore or everything. It was nice to set up that framework, but I'll probably just start calling this a normal Aurora series, because I even mentioned at the setup video, I think, that we'll be switching into an Omniverse type style of play as soon as the combat gets really intense and we have big fleets and all that, because the combat in this game does much more favor. I think it was actually based on, not Omniverse, but now I've been told about a book or a game I didn't even know about, which is very interesting. I already forgot the title, but I'll go back on to episode 1 or 2 whenever it was told to me, and I plan on reading that book and looking more into that series, which people say might even be more convincing or compelling for a basis for Aurora than the Omniverse series was. Okay, so that all said, jumping back into the roleplay, what is going on in the Federation right now? Well, since this is exactly the second that unmanned probe, the Mark 1, we're just calling this is labeled the Mark 1. It probably has a name like, I guess this would be, if its mothership is the Discovery, I guess we would just call it the Mark 1 launched by the Discovery. It's not like a satellite, it's not like Voyager on its own, because it's just going to sit here and then die. It doesn't do anything. So we'll just call it the Mark 1. So the Mark 1 is just going to sit here, but right now the Federation is probably just getting the news feed back and all that, and they need time themselves. I needed time off camera to think about what to do, but even the Federation would need time. They don't have an instant response about what to do. So I'm sure that they will, of course, be interested in exploring this system, but we'll get to that soon. However, I'm going to... the Federation is starting to feel the effects, like basically the very delayed effect that you would expect from the rebellion on the moon that started to happen, the people protesting that they didn't have enough protection. The fallout of this has taken, many years to kind of trickle through the government, as you would expect, but I finally feel like the Federation is going to start commissioning some true warships. We're worried about if the moon wants protection, what do they want protection from? And now that we have Mars, it's even further away than the moon, and our planetary defense complexes, or whatever the C stood for, I can't remember anymore, they aren't going to be capable of threatening Mars. It's just, there's no two ways about it. Now, Mars right now is only 10 million people. It's a very civil population. We kind of expect that as this game abstracts, that the larger the population, the more unruly it will potentially become, or the greater demand for protection. So we plan to build some kind of military fleet with whatever we have available, just to make sure that the shipping lanes between Earth and Mars can be protected. The very interesting things which we're not considering is what would be happening with the belt mining and all this. We have the slingshots sending all these resources back to us, which I have stopped. but they should be there. Mineral packet content. Oh, there it is. There it is. There's mineral packets. So these don't have any tails on them right now because I'd have to go until the next tick because I guess they weren't tracked. But these are all mineral packets which have tails going in, which means that these are all places that have deployed mineral packets. And what if you even have a ship out there who, I don't know, somehow grabs a minor mass driver on a ship or can travel at the speed of these, which is 1,000 kilometers per second. We have ships capable of going faster than this. If you could go this speed, match their course, heading, and their speed, you could just slow them down or redirect them. Anyways, there's lots of ideas circulating that we probably need to be prepared against pirates, or, we're thinking internally, but this will also, because there's no such thing as like internal rebellions or anything like this, we could roleplay it. I could, artificially create such things, but what it'll lead us to is an ability to create a combat fleet. So with that in mind, what we are going to do is start looking into researching some more military-oriented technologies. We've already been doing this, but obviously it's at an extremely slow rate. And the priority is still going to be on this research rate and on getting this fuel consumption. After this fuel consumption, what do we have planned next? The internal confinement fusion drive technology. So after these two things are done being researched, then I would say the priority for power and propulsion will drop down, not hugely, but significantly, maybe down to 15 labs. And after this research rate is done, I think what is the next one after this? We're starting going into, we expand the civilian economy, which isn't already as necessary because this shows you the importance of having colonies. They do create wealth for your nation, which is awesome. So the Federation is experiencing a trade boon, a boost to their income because of the trade that's happening between the three different colonies we have. We really are now a united federation of planets because we have at least 2 planets, and I still consider the moon, it's a moon, right? But I don't think that the idea for the United Federation, quote, of planets, it's probably the United Federation of bodies, system bodies, because, in a lot of science fiction worlds or universes, you have moons, which are the home world for a species, and they would still be obviously treated just as fairly in the Federation as a nation which came from a true planet orbiting its star. So I don't think it matters if it's a moon or so I treat the moon, Luna, as it should be called Luna, since there's not just one moon anymore. Right now there is, because I don't think Mars has a moon, but there is going to be other moons eventually we will populate, so we should call it Luna. It will be Luna. So Luna is, I'm treating it as a separate planet. It is one of the entities in the United Federation of Planets. So we have 3 entities, and we will probably expand this more. And the more we expand it, the better, the more like trade goods we're creating, and the more economy we have, which is good because we'll probably need to increase the economy significantly in order to afford all the research we want, and on top of that, the shipbuilding, which we are now tentatively planning. So that's kind of a State of the Union address, which I don't know if I've done recently, so that's the kind of where we're going to be heading. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away. There's nothing that's going to happen in Proxima Centauri. I'm also really glad that we chose the Terran Federation naming system. I think this Proxima Centauri is a fantastic name. Very role-playable. Very fitting. So we're not going to be doing anything with this system. The unmanned probe will stick around this jump point, which means that it actually has the capability of detecting ships that come close if this is to be a populated system. But basically what this unmanned probe is doing is just scanning this system, observing the patterns of the planets on their orbits and all that, and it's just acting as just a camera into this system, a very distant camera that allows us to keep tabs on what's going on here, more for entertainment purposes, I would say, almost. It's kind of like how NASA has a live feed of like satellite images and stuff. It's kind of just to keep interest in people. And we will be going here before we go this is, well, I mean, I should be saying this. This is the Federation's deliberation eventually will be that we will be going to colonize one of those planets. We want to first explore, obviously, but we'll be sending our geological survey vessel over to explore before we go to any other systems. So there's the Phoenix, which is our jump gate ship, is not going to be used until we have pretty thoroughly investigated Proxima Centauri. So you can see already there's, again, a huge break between Star Trek as the lore, the universe, the history of that lore goes, and the history we are already creating for ourselves. But it should be pretty entertaining. So that's a pretty lengthy State of the Union, but I feel like it was necessary so that I could kind of explain how things are, what's going on. Let's go back to minerals. And now what I'll do is I'll advance far forward in time, and what I plan to do is get the Tortuga power after, let's see, I'm probably going to get a few technologies. I'm going to see off camera how we're doing in terms of military. I did create, so I'm in probe. I think I created the Nox, Discovery, Osiris. Okay, so this is fine. Oh, so it's Planetary Defense Center. Okay, good. Complex Center. I think complex actually sounds even better, if I'm honest. My own personal preference would be Planetary Defense Complex. But yeah, so we'll get some military ships which can start patrolling the shipping lanes. That'll be the role-playing purpose. And also, I'm looking forward to the time when we can actually start. We don't need to do it yet, but eventually I want to get the financial centers that we have built on Earth off of Earth, and I want to put them onto Mars. Mars is going to be the financial center of Sol. Luna will be the research center, and Earth will be the industrial sector. So this is how things are going to be distributed in our home system. And then I also like to get Io as one of our systems as well. If I bring up this list, I know quite a long State of the Union here. We're up to past 12 minutes, but yeah, I think this stuff is really interesting to see, like to project where we will go from here. Well, I don't know why that came up, but okay. So we have, we've taken both the colony cost 2 ones. There's a way I think I can. See, I shouldn't do this on camera, but I think there's a way I can sort by even just habitable planets. But yeah, but here's the other ones which are available to us. Jupiter's moons. We have Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Of these, gravity is highest on Io, which is why I usually terraform it first. It also has a smaller orbital distance, which just means its variation in space is a little bit less compared to Jupiter, at least. So yeah, I just prefer this. I prefer this one first. There's no reason. Actually, the one I would prefer the most is if any of these had mineral deposits, but I always get one of them with a mineral deposit, but not this time. So we'll go ahead and just colonize one, which will give us something to do for terraforming, which leads me to the last thing I want to talk about, that we need to modify our industry a bit. We are going to have our military academy up very, very soon, just a couple weeks here. Then we'll have a sector command. I'll probably come back on when that happens just to do a quick blurb about hiring our sector commander, yada yada. We'll have a spaceport started when the military academy finishes. That's just going to help loading and unloading from Earth. And but for role-playing purposes, I just really think we should have a spaceport on Earth. That seems like something that would be built for sure. But then after that, let's start getting some terraforming installations. We're establishing a very healthy population on the moon, and people are starting to wonder, well, why not make the moon a very habitable place? Personally, by the way, I don't know why, this is just a scientific aside, I don't understand why the moon and Mars are considered the same colony cost. I would find the moon, I mean, from a convenience standpoint, shipping things to the moon is easy, but the moon is far less habitable, I think, than Mars from a scientific standpoint. It can't even support an atmosphere. I don't know how terraforming it would even help. Whereas Mars, it will lose some of its atmosphere. I mean, there's also stuff like solar winds you have to take into account here. There's no shielding on the moon, so that's bad. And I don't think there's much shielding on Mars, but I don't know. I'm naive to that. I should know, but I don't. So, but it's definitely better than the moon. Anyway, I just don't. The colony cost. I'm happy with it. Hey, it gives us the moon very quickly as a nice colony, so I'll take it. But yeah. Anyways, so here we go to terraforming station installation, and I think we'll just start with the. Well, I'll start with an order just 5. Whoops, not on the moon. Sorry, that would take forever. Oh, that was on Mars actually. We want 5 terraforming installations here. There. If we were to pop this up, I think that takes, okay, so this is 600 each. So we can get 2 for the price of 1 spaceport, or 4 for the price of one of these sector commands or a military academy. So this will take a little bit longer than a normal installation, which is 2,400. This is 3,000. So it will still take a couple years to get all 5 of those. And as soon as we get any of them, we'll just ship them immediately to the moon. Another thing, last thing I'll point out before we jump away is our civilian economy has actually expanded quite significantly. You can see we have 4 large freighters, 4 small freighters, 6 small colony. I don't care about colony, but a huge freighter, small freighter, 2 more small freighters. So we have plenty of freighter cargo hauling capacity, which means that we're going to start making use of these civilian contracts to set up mining points all over the system. Let me cut away. I won't set up those yet because we don't actually even, unfortunately, have the necessary automated mines to do this. But that's not. I guess we got to do that as well. Okay, I know what we'll do. As soon as the spaceport is completed, which won't take too long because it's only 1,200 for one of these, which will be after military academy, spaceport will jump up. When these 2 are finished, I'm going to leave terraforming at 10%, and I'm going to jump automated mines up to 20%, and we'll add a whole bunch. We'll get a whole slew of automated mines, and we may need, of course, some mass drivers as well, because we only have 2 extras right now. We always have to leave 1 on Earth, obviously, to catch. But then we'll start spreading out these colonies. We have plenty of places to go, but not immediately. So, that said, I am going to advance time. We'll probably cut back when the sector command is done, and then we'll jump back into the research stuff, seeing what we're going to be doing with that. So, I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so our first big event has happened. We finished the sector command on Earth. So we'll jump to that in a moment, but first let's go through the role-playing stuff. Gerard, I forgot to talk about the role-playing thread from episode 10. This is what this will be. Also, I'm not really sure if the role-playing thread was me trying to be too organized about stuff, if it kind of stifled creativity. Let me know if you prefer just to post in general, or if we should keep the role-playing thread going. It was much, much easier for me to very quickly find these entries, so there is a benefit to it, but if it's kind of tiring to use, then then we'll do away with it. Anyway, Gerard Deneth, who is our head of fleet logistics, has recommended that we consider designing a fuel tanker for the future, just because that is going to be what helps our exploration ships explore that much farther. And that is definitely something we'll take under consideration. I think it'd be a good thing to have, not just for our exploration ships, but eventually for our military ships too. And someone else also commented on top of that maybe, or you could say another one of the panel for the fleet logistics group recommended that maybe it should even be a combined tanker and harvester, so not only does it provide fuel, it actually can actively refuel itself. Intelligence operative Stardford wanted us to ask the question about possible alien life, to be very curious about exploring, just because both sides of this jump gate are inhabited. Are jump gated. So I don't have anything to say about that, other than our scientists have just discovered these jump gates, and they do think that there's a very small chance that they can form and stabilize on their own. We have just discovered how to make these ourselves now, so it's still possible. However, if we use the analogy that, if you have a monkey smashing keys randomly on a typewriter for 1 billion years, maybe at some point he'll just randomly write Hamlet or something from Shakespeare. That might have been what happened with these jump gates too. It's been such a long time since the beginning of the universe. Maybe we got lucky and one happened to be jump gated. What is the more likely scenario? Yeah, that there's alien life out there and that is what actually jump gated this. So we will be cautious, but as I said in the last little segment before we cut away, we are going to be making more of a military fleet to deal with the shipping lanes and all that for the fun of it. So that is we will have military ships just in case something goes wrong anyway. Okay, then we have the same panel who pushed for Admiral Wright's court-martial, and she eventually, I guess, was like a light reprimand. We can maybe just call it an NJP, with the undertone of that, the being benched or grounded forever, the much more serious punishment, but it's not an official one. And she's not grounded quite yet. She's still up she's still on the Tortuga Power. But the same group also now pushed for Commander Dixon to be recognized, and especially the 15 crew. Now I want to make a very strong point of emphasis about the role-playing here. This unmanned probe, although it does have 15 crew, we treat this as not existent. In fact, I even made it a conscript I realized I was looking at this, I didn't even realize that there were actually 15 crew. At last I saw of it, there was 2 crew on this before we put the tractor beam on, and I forgot to take a look and see that there was more crew added with the tractor beam, which of course makes sense. But anyways, these 15 crew do not exist. This probe is unmanned for all role-playing intents and purposes. So there is no special award given to the Discovery. All they did was launch the probe, and that's not anything more than their day-to-day standard operating procedure stuff. So I just want to make that point that the unmanned probe, the Mark 1 as it's referred to, the Mark 1 is unmanned. Now, last thing is Senators Willard and Beard, again discussing the need for military, and they were defending Admiral Wright for just doing her job or just following orders. But so yes, the military thing is a good thing, and we will be getting to that. As far as Admiral Wright and the punishment has already been handed down. There's definitely we can say it's been sent to a second board for review for the actions, and the second board has also agreed with the findings of the first, because you can't just follow orders if it endangers your crew or it's bad orders. Like, in this situation, it wasn't like an emergency combat situation or something. It was go and explore this, and she should have said, obviously I, as the person commanding her, should have been aware of this, but I wasn't. But we'll pretend that her fault was actually just, that my fault was actually just her fault. She didn't look at the distance. But I don't want this scenario with, again, the Tortuga Power to bog us down forever. So, Sector Commander, very briefly, we will look at civilian administrators. I already did the switching. So, Stephanie Nixon is still our wonder child, who's got 35% mining bonus, 40% population growth. I mean, she's a star child. She's a fantastic governor. One of the best you'll see. Now, originally we had... Who is it? Jessica... No, it's... Is it Jessica Watkins? Yeah, Jessica Watkins. Originally, Jessica Watkins was the governor of the moon. And she was promoted. I love the fact that, by the way, it happens to be in a really true fashion. The governor of the moon ended up being elected or somehow chosen to be the governor of Earth's sector. That's such a real progression, the way it would really go. So she was previously, if we look at her profile, I don't know where I can look at it, but she was previously assigned to the moon, and now she's been promoted to Earth sector. The reason why, it's pretty obvious. She has very good bonuses as well. 20% mining. This is really the most important one for sector bonus, because if you look at our colonies, only 3 of them have population or wealth or anything, but all of them but 2, so let's say 7 of 9. Funny I mentioned that, but I think that's actually 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 7 of 9, if you recognize that from Was that Star Trek Voyager? Speaking of Star Trek, anyway, 7 of the 9 have mining, and only 3 of the 9 have population or wealth or anything. So mining is really important for the sector commander. This is going to trickle down in a big way. Now, if you're wondering, because Stephanie Nixon does have, in general, much better qualifications to be Earth sector, I prefer her on Earth because Earth sector, although it applies to more people, it is slightly more diluted. I think it's only 1/4 of the bonuses you see get applied to everywhere. And I would rather have her, like, very strong capabilities totally absorbed by Earth. Like, Earth is a much bigger priority for us than the other 2 colonies in terms of getting more wealth generation, more population growth even. All these things are much better for her. Yeah, so here we can see that she was originally Luna, and then she was assigned just 6 years. After 6 years on the job as governor of the moon, she was promoted to Earth sector. So very cool. Now, what's going on in the world of everything else? Research is slowly ticking away. I think we have finished 1 besides sector command. The fact that sector command is now finished means that we have our entire queue full. But I'm not going to assign something new when terraforming or spaceport finishes. I might even modify this to be 10, but probably what I'll do is we'll keep boosting this back up, modify, and I'll also boost this up to, maybe another 170. And maybe when both of these finish, I'll have 30 for automated mines. That would be really helpful to get us start mining all the different asteroids we have and some of the comets we have around Earth. So until the next little break, what is going to happen? I'm just going to keep plowing through time and wait for something interesting to happen, which will probably be research related. I won't even stop when we do this. I'll just come back and this will already be happening. So even though this won't be happening for at least another year, nope. Actually, the Space Force is minor, but so we'll plow through that, and I'll bring you back when something else interesting happens. All right. In the meantime, we've now gone another 4 months or so. And what have I done? Not much, just progressing time little by little. I am actually expanding our shipyards a bit. I just want to make sure that because I know now that the mod rate is going to affect how long things take to refit and etc., that this is just higher is always better. So in that case, I'm trying to expand it a little bit more than I normally do. I'm going to do 120,000, 100,000. I'm putting this one up to 30,000 even. We will need 1 naval shipyard at around 30,000 just because I don't know how big the Enterprise is going to be, but in my test ship design, it was around 30,000, so it was a huge ship. Still, we have until the end of the century to do that, but if we're going to get it there eventually, I don't really see the downside in just doing it now. So that's what we're doing. Wealth has taken a bit of a plunge just because a lot of civilian mines have been added. I don't know what we were at the beginning of the episode, probably like 741, and now we're at 852. And each one of those costs the Federation about $250 a pop. Was that per month? Per day? I have no idea. What are you considered? So purchase of civilian mining is up to 310. It's only 5. I guess this is per year, right? Last month. Oh no, it's per month. So no, but 250. Yeah, this is probably 250 per year then. No, I'm sure it says there. Anyways, there was something else I wanted to mention. Capacity. I have finished in terraforming. That's right. So now we're actually going to start. We have terraforming installations starting to be completed. We have 1 full complete station now. What I'm going to do is get our freighter, because it's only going to Earth. I don't think we need a civilian contract for this. We might as well just use our own freighter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really save us anything not to use it. Like, usually it's a hassle to do missions with the freighters. It's a lot easier just to get the civilian economy to move for you. But this is not one of those cases. So what we're going to do is load terraforming installation components. And I think it takes these in 1/5 increments each. So what we're going to do is repeat this 5 times. and then we will be done. So actually repeat it 4 times because 1 is already done. And now we go back to Earth, refuel. So that should be done. That should be one terraforming platform that will be on the moon. And we might as well just do this here. I think it won't take very long because we have a spaceport now. So the loading time is much less when it comes up. So it's already done. We haven't even gone a full 5-day tick, and we already have, I think we should have now, 1 installation we do on the moon, which means that now we are going to start terraforming. Now there's no atmosphere, so for those of you who are already very familiar with how this goes, we're trying to get 0.1 atmospheres of oxygen, and then after that we're going to need is it 0.25 or 3.5? I'll have to look it up. Let's see. I can do the math actually. It can't be more than 30%. So, no. It could be 40%. I think it's 0.25. 1 out of 0.35 total is, that's like 33%. I don't know. I'll look it up offline. I can't believe I forgot it, but it's like 0.25, I think, maybe 0.2504 for some reason is the number that sticks in my head. So we need a minimum atmosphere of 0.1 of oxygen, and then on top of that, there's a minimum and maximum percentage of oxygen. So this is the minimum we need of oxygen is at least 0.1 atmospheres, and it probably says right here what's our min-max stuff. So maximum deviations, no, I need percentage though. I guess it's not here, or I don't know where I'm supposed to look for this, but that's okay. I just know it by, you have the graphs, which, I mean the Excel spreadsheet, which you do in the background, which tells you what you need, how much terraforming we need. Anyways, I think it's 0.2504 is what we have to add of greenhouse gases, because greenhouse gases will also help get our temperature up. Anyways, this is just another public service announcement that a huge first. As of January 20th, 2049, we are now beginning the terraforming operation on the moon. So I will continue to move installations to the moon, and we'll see that oxygen slowly appear. And at one point, the moon will become perfectly habitable, and then we'll move our installations over to Mars. So I think that's all I wanted to say in this one. We may actually go for a full 10 installations. Yeah, so let's do that instead, actually. Which means it's going to take, another 2 years, essentially, to finish. But it's probably worth it to get that many. And at least we have a slightly faster percentage of construction on the automated mines. So, all right, anyways. Oh, yeah, there's one other thing. At some point, let's see, how are we doing on the mining? Okay, I guess it's still 7 years away, so we don't have to worry about it. But at some point, we're going to start completing the mining on here, which that mining rate is actually including the automated mines that we've built here, 52, which technically don't belong. But at some point, we're going to transfer these mines, the mines themselves, not the automated mines, but the actual people working in the mines, to Mars, because Mars has that really good supply of neutronium and boronide. Neither of those are really super important. We actually have a shortage of mercasium. So that might be one of my first targets for some kind of mining operation. Yeah, I guess we are. What's our stockpile at? Minus 87. Good God. I guess we are building a lot of research labs, and research labs cost a lot of money. They cost a lot of resources, and they cost a lot of population. So they're very costly. Anyway, that's it. I didn't want to drag on with this little public service announcement. But 20th of January 2049, terraforming begins. We'll see how long it takes to finish, and I'll write down that number so that we have that logged as well. Okay, see you back in a bit. Alright, so a few things have happened since the last little clip. We've gone about 10 months. First of all, I want to point out that make sure when you actually want to add terraforming atmosphere that you click this add gas to atmosphere. In the last little segment I forgot to do that. Luckily I caught it after like 5 or 10 days or something very quickly, but even still, now that we've added up to 4 terraforming installations, we're still not to 0.01, which means it'll still take us over 10 years to get the 0.1 that we want. But we'll have eventually 10 terraforming installations, so this will go at slightly, just a bit over 0.01. And maybe if we get lucky, we'll also have some research, which eventually will increase our terraforming rate. That'll happen in 2053. Still like, geez. 3.5 years away until that completes. But by the way, when do we have our next terraforming installation? So we're just about to have it. Okay. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up now that we're starting to get some scientists. I've actually gone through and created, dismissed some scientists, and then we've gotten some new ones. I guess this is the best place. So we have new places, new faces here. Still no defense, which I'm really disappointed by, but I think I've gone through about 3 cycles where I look at everyone, I replace like 3 or 4. New people are appearing, then I replace them. So let's just take a look and see what the state of affairs is right now. You'll see that I've gotten rid of everybody with a bonus of either 0 or 5%. I just got rid of them, which means that we do have this one weird situation with a couple of individuals with only 5 labs available to them, and I don't have enough labs where that's a big deal. But obviously, being capped at only 5 labs of research is terrible. If our construction and production guy was capped at 5. He'd probably be worse than, this guy would be better at only 10% of a bonus with 35 labs, or this lady, I should say, Dr. Owen. Okay, anyways, trying to get some new scientists in here, and it's slowly working. Last thing I want to say is I've decided it's time for us to start mining some other colonies. Right now our money situation is terrible. We're down to 4,600, the lowest it's ever been, and it's plummeting still because these mines have expanded. I think at the beginning of this episode, I don't remember exactly, but I'm guessing it was like 741. So we've gone up by huge amounts to 954, and this is obviously quite expensive. On top of that, we have a huge industry for research labs, and research labs are just incredibly costly. So you can see that now our purchasing of civilian minerals is, it's significant. It's at least up to above 5%, 6%. But still, the research is what is the killer of our economy. We probably could match this by building more financial centers, but that takes away from the other things we really want to get done. So, let's just look at the effect of this. Basically, I don't want to not buy the civilian goods on 1996. It's a great supply of uranium. This will probably be one of the first candidates, especially after the tritanium is gone, for us to maybe start selling things, because 0.9 accessibility, with the way the civilian stuff works, you do pay only for an effective renting the equipment for amount of time, which means that the higher accessibility and the larger number of resources that are being mined is better. So having, let's say, 8 resources mined at around 1 is much, much better as an extreme compared to having only 1 mineral that you're harvesting at like 0.7. The 0.7 one is almost like a great situation for you to use minerals go to civilian sector, which means they pay you instead, because you're not really even losing that much if they're not mining that much very quickly. So eventually we'll probably dump these onto minerals go to the civilian sector. But right now we actually really want this, look, this is an amazing amount of uranium we want from Neuschmann and Huya. Very similar story. It's just hard to get away from accepting either of those. They're giving us like a very large increase of uranium, I imagine. in theory at least. Although technically our our decreasing stockpile says otherwise. Anyway, but I've gone ahead and decided that that's not enough. We also created a colony on Cromulin. Cromulin should be north-south. Let's see. Zoomed in? Yeah, there it is. So there's Cromulin. It now is a full-blown colony. It has all 60 automated mines and a mass driver. I believe that actually I never set a destination for it. Let's get that to go to Earth. Okay, so now this is going to ship all this stockpile, which we hadn't created that much of a stockpile yet anyway. It's going to ship that all home. So now we have one other source of uranium. If I'm not mistaken about this, I believe that one civilian mining complex is worth 10 mines, or auto mines. They mine at the same rate. So this is essentially like us having 6 civilian mines here, even though we have 60 auto mines. And I think that our one mass driver, I mean, according to this will deplete an annual rate of, 4,900. So we're well within the 5,000 we're allowed for one mass driver. I also think that, if I'm not mistaken, it's mineral independent. You're allowed 5,000 per mineral. I mean, that doesn't make sense from a scientific standpoint, but from a gameplay mechanic, I think it's just you can have all of these at 5,000 and it'll send all of them home. I might be wrong about that, in which case this is like the perfect maximum for, using one mass driver. But anyway, just wanted to show that I actually even used the civilian contract, which might still be showing in here if, civilian contract's 105 is what we paid. I guess we paid a total of 165 for that contract, which was 60, what is it called? Automated mines and then one mass driver. Alright, so this video is getting close to the end, but I think I'm going to try to fit one more cut in. As we speed along, the important things, I guess the one other thing I'm going to mention is I'm trying right now to blow through a bit of sensors and fire control technology. That is going to help us get our first military ships, because basically we already have, it's not amazing, but it's reasonable laser technology. We'll probably just need to get laser focus, but more importantly, we really need turret tracking speed. I guess that's it. We just need the turret tracking speed from here a little bit high to get better turrets, which is probably what we'll be using. But we have fantastic engine technology. We got the 0.3 fuel consumption rate, which is great. And we also are going to get the internal confinement fusion drive, which is fantastic. And that, after that is done, we are queuing up. I did queue up minimum engine modifier, but probably I should start queuing up. After this, it'll be no problem just to get maximum engine power out. We'll probably use one engine power of 1.5, considering we're already at fuel consumption rate of only 0.3, and we want these ships to be energy weapon fighters. We'll probably make them like laser frigates. That's what I'll probably designate them. So our first tier of military ships that are just supposed to patrol the trade lanes, I think it makes sense just to have frigates do that. Just like coastal patrol type vessels, you can think of them. But they will also be our first response, since they'll be our only military if we do happen to encounter any aliens. So that's all the mechanics going on behind the scenes. I will see you back in a sec for the final cut before we conclude this video. Okay, so now it is the 1st of July 2050. We've gone pretty far. This episode has almost gone a full 2 years, and it wouldn't be very hard for us to go the full 2 years. Remember that the 21st of July 2048 is when we launched the Discovery's probe. So that has now happened almost 2 years ago, which those 2 years all took place in this episode. So pretty good. What has happened since last time? A lot of research. In fact, you'll see that our research has gone. I mentioned that there's 2 cycles of the Federation's mentality as far as research goes. There's the very narrow, like forward-looking research, which just tries to get the development technologies. And then there's the point at which we need something, we need to actually do something. I'm going to call this like the science phase is when we're forward looking, and the engineering phase is when it's time to actually build something. So we've moved from the science phase, which is like the construction and production, getting the theory, get better research rate, all that kind of stuff. We've transitioned out of that, and we're now into the broad and wide engineering phase, where we're starting to get the components we actually want for ships. And you can see that we have 18 labs now on sensor and fire control versus 2 or 3 or whatever. And we have 15 on energy and weapons, and even 6 on missiles and kinetics. So a lot of labs are being devoted. They were all taken out of construction and production. And furthermore, our power and propulsion is now starting to work on capacitor recharge rate, which I completely neglected until now. But obviously with energy ships, we're going to need capacitor recharge. We need to recharge our lasers. So all those things are starting to be added to the queue. I don't know when we'll actually have these things available to go. I think we need about another year. So 2051 I'm targeting as the point at which we can start designing the technology, the actual individual engineered technology that we need to put on ships, like the individual lasers, stuff like that. So to that point, like I said, capacitor recharge, we're getting the next tier of distance in terms of laser technology. And one of the big things we need is our fire control is a little bit behind. We have fire control speed rating of only 4,000. Now you can multiply this by 4 by increasing the size, which is fine. So 16,000 is something at least. But that's what we're trying to get. We don't even have the capability. Right now our capability is only 12,000 kilometers per second, which is pretty bad. So we want this to be up to at least 16,000. We are pretty confident we won't face anything ship-wise faster than 16,000, almost positive. Unless we run into something we really didn't want to run into. Actually, no, we don't even have. I don't think we have. It's not. I don't think it's even possible for us to run into something which has more than 16,000. Missiles aside. Now, in terms of missile defense, I don't really have anything working for us yet. The missile and kinetics, the Gauss cannons that I plan to use, they're way behind, and I'm not dedicating too many research labs to it. So you might say that that's a slight shortcoming of our research plan right now. But I feel like getting the better laser weapons out is a more pressing matter. I want to keep the first ships pretty low in size, pretty small, like maybe 2,000 tons. I don't think that's possible. We'll probably end up something around 3 or 4, maybe even 5,000 tons. But I wanted to make them frigates, like I said, laser frigates, so that they can just patrol the shipping lanes. And they may not even have. I might just stick with a very simple design that favors armor over defense, as in armor over actually mounting any kind of point defense. So we'll just tank any of the missile hits with our hull, hope that our hull survives, and hopefully we're able to close the range. Or maybe we'll abstract that we hope the missiles, that these things are fast enough. They actually will be pretty darn fast, that it lowers the chance to hit of like pirate missile ships if we end up facing something like that. So like in the role playing of the scheme of things, we want these ships to be, I'm targeting around 10,000 or faster, faster if I can, of course. The idea is just probably put a big engine, maybe 2 engines, but probably just one engine on these frigates. Their only goal is to very quickly approach, track down these enemy ships, any pirate ships, and laser them to death. So we're not expecting them to be ever threatened in terms of larger sized vessels. I expect that even at 3,000, 4,000, their role-playing role is already huge compared to the pirate vessels we're likely to find. You can think of this in terms of like present-day coastal patrol, like the United States Coast Guard or whatever. They're a frigate in that ship, in that navy, is massive compared to any kind of pirate stuff that you'd have going on. If the pirates take over a freighter or something, the frigate is still just so much more capable than anything the pirates are going to have, if we think of like the Somali pirates or whatever. So that's the idea. Just make something that is capable of combating piracy, but it'll have the added bonus of actually providing us with some weak, very extremely weak, but some frontline defense should we actually have any kind of hostile contacts in Proxima Centauri. So yeah, like I said, we've just broadened out. A few other things I want to mention. Is there any other research I need to mention? Because we're looking pretty good in terms of, maybe even now's the time to start looking at some of the things we can do. So for active research, what would we want for this? I want the minimum hole size pretty low because although we're not planning to find ships this low, this is kind of what this frigate is for. Let's do 3,000 though, even though that's, we could even, 3,000. Because although there is some fade off below 3,000 and we can pretend that these are actually supposed to be capable of detecting ships even at like 1,000, they'll still be able to detect them at 1,000, just not at the same range. So, okay, maybe 2,000. For role-playing purposes, let's just do 2,500, split the difference. We want this to be, a search sensor. And the question is the size. That's going to be the tricky one. What are we going to get out of this if we did like a size of 10 even? So this allows us to sight objects at 2,500 tons, which is pretty small, at 124 million kilometers, which is already not bad. I mean, it's something noticeable on the map. 124 million kilometers is that. So that's already pretty good. That gets us, almost from the sun to the moon, almost from the sun to the Earth. So just shy of it. And that is still pretty big, unfortunately, compared to what we want to build. But because this, if we do the size in tons, this is going to be, unfortunately, 500. So still, okay, what if we went up to 15? Just linear scaling, I'm pretty sure. 186. This is fantastic. 186 million kilometers allows us to have, considering for us the trade lanes are just Earth to Mars, what is the expected or average distance we imagine between them? Probably something like this. Probably in their current, they're almost exactly what I would expect their average distance to be at, and that is 320. So we'd be still more than half of that distance, the average distance away, which means if we had two ships, one near Mars and one near Earth, they would, on average, they would cover the distance between, which is fantastic. Okay, so I already like this, because we'll probably make 3 frigates, and then if we presume that 2 are patrolling while 1 is off duty, then they can basically cover the distance. That's fantastic. Okay, so that is good. I already like this. So it looks like our active sensors are better than I expected. They're much better than I expected. Who am I kidding? So each one of them will have, it's a pretty expensive active sensor for a frigate that's supposed to be pretty small. How's our laser technology looking? So we're at ultraviolet. We're probably going to get one more tech of this before we actually start building them. Yeah, we didn't do the spinal mount, which I'm fine with. It probably would have been nice to get a spinal mount. No, because then it relies on your non-turret tracking, but your actual speed. But if our speed's going to be around 10,000 or so, that probably is actually fast enough. Maybe we just put... Actually, I'm just thinking out loud. I know this is pretty much rambling at this point, but very interesting. What if we just put one spinal laser and... Excuse me. One spinal laser, and that's it. What if the frigate was just one spinal laser? This would kind of remind me of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Babylon 5, but like the White Stars. They had this massive spinal mount laser. It's kind of what it reminded. And that, they had other weapons too, but I think that's not a bad idea for a frigate. They don't need that many lasers, and if they're fast enough, they don't really need the fire control. I mean, our tracking is going to be based on the ship then, which is still good. Yeah, we need better fire control rating though. My God. Okay, well, it's something to think about. And I guess that's probably going to call this video to a close. So, thanks for watching. Until the next episode, what do we have going on? I don't know. We'll probably just still plug away at the research. Oh, I forgot to mention that our mining situation is absolutely horrible and has inspired me to actually begin construction of financial centers again. And I'm taking automated mines off because they're so important. It's so important that we don't run out of money. And we practically are. That we might even drop this down to 5, something very low, just to get these produced even faster. We're just about to run out of money, which is not good. So, yeah, how we doing here? We are losing a lot of money. That research is very expensive. The purchase of civilian minerals still hanging around 6%. I guess the research cost is going up way faster than the civilians are still expanding. They're not at 10.55, but okay, well, at least we're getting resources out of it. But the research is so expensive, so expensive. But it's also the most important thing, I think. So, all right, like I said, I'm going to call this video to a close. So thanks for watching. I will hopefully have these episodes out less than 3 or 4 days apart, which has been the case, but that's due to editing, and actually a lot of time off camera goes into advancing time. You've seen how slow I play on camera. Well, I play even slower when I don't have the pressure of recording on me, so you can try to extrapolate how long these the intermission where you don't see it, but behind the scenes it's actually quite time consuming for me to play. Not that it isn't enjoyable. That's what I love about this game, is that it's a wonderful time sink, but unfortunately it also just takes that much time then for me to progress forward far enough to bring you back on and record a video. So that's it. Until the next one, thanks for watching and take care.